Good evening. Through the prayers of Holy Fathers, Lord Jesus Christ, for God, have mercy on us and save us. For those new here, my name is Father Joseph Swaden. I've worked in Orthodox apologetics since 1998, and I'm the founder of NFT True Orthodoxy and of Ecumenical News since 2004. And we've been in the apologetic space on Facebook since 2016 and on YouTube since 2018. And if you appreciate what we do here, please like and subscribe. Okay, so let's see what's going on. First off, good evening, everybody. And so let me just start by saying, while Wasna says evening, everyone, as a member, you get your posts on the screen. Good evening, DTC, Saba. Good evening, everyone. May God bless you in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. It is okay if you can't join today. It's fine. I don't always expect someone to be there, but it's always nice. As always, we're doing our live call-in show where you can get your questions answered live, as well as member-requested video reviews. So let's get started. And as always, if you want to jump on stream to ask a question or make a comment, just click the link at the top of the chat. Greetings, Sunrise. And let's see what else we've got going on here. Okay, so in the cafe chat, Tate debate tonight. Well, that guy never wrote me back. Good evening, Father Benedicite. So yeah, the Tate guy, unfortunately, he was talking and then he just stopped once he realized that I really meant what I said about a live call-in. So let's take a look here and see what we've got going on. I got at least one question in the Gab group. And I see that on the cafe, let me see here, hold on, wrong cafe screen. I know that there was, let me see when this was. This was on the 9th, so it would have been like right after today's show. So let's see, 2 video review requests relating to recent guests from World Orthodoxy asking about True Orthodoxy. Okay, so we'll take a look at them. Let's start with the first one. Let's see here. Okay, and let's share that instead. All right, and let's take a look and see what we've got going on. Yep, Rumpelstiltskin. I don't know what that is. This is not the new chat. Before I say anything, I really do want to address that from last week, which is why I was calling this a disaster stream or an imminent disaster stream. Basically, we did get the money together to upgrade the chat. I did pay the fee to upgrade the chat, and it does come with a certain amount of service time on that to get it set up. Unfortunately, between the webmaster and the folks that create that sort of new system, there wasn't exactly the communications that we would have liked. So hopefully we'll get that resolved by next week. And this is kind of important. I definitely do want to get this resolved within the next couple of weeks because, quite frankly, we need to, because as I mentioned, StreamYard is increasing its costs, and so it is going to become considerably more expensive. And that means increased costs and stuff like that. Let me see here. Okay, Sunrise says, I think it's time you go on college campuses and have live debates, Father. And Sava says, I used to do that years ago, go on college debates and debate people about religion and politics. It's a bit of a waste. Maybe, but maybe we can make content out of it. I mean, I don't know. I would not go by myself. I would want to bring at least 1 or 2 more people with me, if only for the purposes of having witnesses to the events that happen, and 2 because I'm not a big fan of doing things by myself. Sava said, I actually had college students tell me things like, well, I think evolution is garbage, but I can't say that publicly. Yeah, that's true. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of it, is people know that what they're teaching in schools, etc., is garbage, but they want to get their grade. There's always another delusion hiding under the first delusion. So if you deal with the delusion that is the educational system, then you have to deal with the underlying delusion that if you are not participating in that system, you're going to be limited in terms of the types of work you can do, so on and so forth. But outside of things like the hard scientists or being a doctor or a lawyer, there are very few things that really require that. Reader John asks your blessing. May God bless you in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And let's continue on. So let's do this here video review since it was asked of us, and we shall do that. And then we're going to go back to the cafe stream. I have not figured out how to put the cafe stream and the video reviews at the same time. Hopefully, I'll be able to do that with the new system. So let's take a look. Okay. It always has to start with one of the modern elders. All right, how long is this? Let's see here. Okay. Okay, so it's going to be one of these. Give me just 1 second. Okay. First off, if you're wondering why I would shut off perfectly good Greek chant, it is because I'm about to speed that up to no end, and it won't sound as good. Mary 754, when we came to community, we believe that the answer to the question will be made manifest by the text below. St. John Chrysostom writes, it is for these reasons God allowed Blessed Eustachius to be escorted off into exile, that he might show us in a major way both the power of truth and the heretic's feebleness. Note the above-mentioned heretics were Arians. St. Eustachius was exiled after the First Ecumenical Council. He did not think he was being alien from the leader. Okay. Okay, yep. And so this is, you see, now this is the major problem that I'm already sensing I'm going to see with this. There are, in fact, many apologias that are based upon what Saint John had written on this matter, on the matter of the of Saint Eustathius and his case, and they use that to kind of justify, well, this means you can stay in communion with those who are heretics or committing canonical anomalies, distortions. The big problem with this, and this is all this is really. The big problem with this is that St. John Chrysostom, after the Synod of the Oak, effectively formed a parallel hierarchy which had no communion with the church in Constantinople at the time because of his own uncanonical deposition. So even though he's saying, well, this is a perfect example, it's only a perfect example in terms of words and theoretical practices, when in action, St. John Chrysostom took the same actions that we did, that we do when we join true bishops. So I don't think that was a very strong argument. Okay, hold on. Let me see here. I didn't realize I left Reader John's thing on. Yeah, I think all his videos are like this. Yeah, a lot of them are. In some biology classes, they do make students do a paper on evolution, basically a written statement that you agree with it. That's pretty tragic. Hold on, let me put the cafe back because I'm still trying to get good at this. So let's go back there. And let's go back here. Okay, and epic quote. It will always have to be okay. It does though, doesn't it? Yeah, labs and stuff. Okay, and I forgot. Okay, if anyone wants an accurate picture of what real eldership looks like, I highly recommend reading Blessed Paisius Filchowski and the Acquisition of the Holy Spirit of Ancient Russia. Glory to God. I agree with that. While it's not a very good take. I was homeschooled, thankfully, never went through college, avoided a lot of the old earth and evolution notes. Thankfully, my mother's a Lutheran, doesn't believe in evolution. Thank God. I hope your mom is doing better, Saba, and because I know people were praying for her. Earth gets older every year, according to scientists, at least 13 billion trillion years from now. Well, it's a good day to remember that this Saturday was New Year's, according to the ecclesiastical reckoning of 7,533 from the beginning of the world. So, Happy New Year, everyone, as we continue on. And so, Rumpelstiltskin says, I'm just a noob. Yeah, I don't know what that was supposed to be. John MC says, right, everyone knows Darwinian evolution is a fraud, is a scam, but don't admit it publicly for the usual reasons. Well, that's in the West. I don't know that Darwinian evolution or even age of the earth ideas are a global thing. I think that's mostly in Western countries and mostly in what we would call the developed world, I guess you could say. So I don't think that's the only thing. Let me see here. Okay, it looks like we have a new post in the political cartoons and the memes. So, all right, I'm going to have to arrange these so that I can kind of see. All right, so let's go to a different part of the cafe as we wander off to see what is going on. Okay, no. We're still dealing with the war on spammers. We have isolated one of them. So I'm happy to see that. Let me see here. Okay. Let me see. I saw a new thing pop up for political and the memes thing, and I'm trying to see let's see. Okay, so let's see if we got something new and interesting as we scroll through. Is that no, this is not today. I'm a little tired today. Limited times. All right, yeah, unfortunately this is kind of sad, but all right, let's get back into the chat and load that up. And meanwhile, having a hard time sharing an image, not sure why. This chat is not designed for it. This is an kind of an older and different style chat. We're talking about adding upgrades like that. In a next version or the 2.0 version, which I don't doubt they will, but the system that we're trying to install is actually going to have everything from not just image sharing and file sharing, but more importantly, it will have live conferencing. which is something that I think is necessary. Voice chat, video chat, which is how I'll be able to actually, like right now, most people know that what we run on right now for our video is StreamYard. And so, yeah, that's weird. What you kind of have to do, I know with the cafe right now, is you control V, like you paste it in, which will then put it in the attachment and then preview it to make sure it's in there. And that's basically it. Let's see what we got going on here as we continue. Let me see here. Yeah, they can't decide how old it is. Every few years, their mathematical models don't work out. Every known Darwinian evolution, so far I understand, they usually don't. Yep. Well, Stas, did you see the new statement by the Pope regarding many paths leading to God? Unreal. Oh, yes, that's been the weekend's kind of a lot of the weekend's discussion. Let me see if I can pull that up on the Twitter, and see if I can find that, because that was a pretty that was pretty intense. Like a lot of papists were unfortunately coped and seized hard, because of that. Let's just see. I assume Pope will probably. Yeah, we'll just put up. This guy is one of millions. Okay, one of millions of people who, of course, has been complaining. So let's make it bigger and let's make it full size. And let's share this instead. And
una delle cose che più mi ha colpito di voi giovani, di questi qui, no? È la capacità del dialogo interreligioso.
One of the things that struck me about all of you here is your ability to engage in interreligious dialogue.
E questo è molto importante.
And this is very important.
Perché se voi incominciate a litigare, la mia religione è più importante della tua, la mia è la vera, la tua non è vera, dove ci porta questo?
Because if we start to fight amongst ourselves and saying, my religion is more important than yours, my religion is true, yours is not, where will that lead us?
Dove?
Where will it lead us?
Qualcuno risponda, dove?
Someone respond, where would it lead us? D'istituzione.
Okay, I'll respond. It'll lead us to hell because of the fact that we're denying the truth of Jesus Christ, our God. And so, unfortunately, this ecumenist statement, as Sava points out, which one, the one JP2 made, John Paul II, Francis is just following in a line of Roman Catholic popes since Vatican II. Sunrise says, of course, you have to have charity and nuance. The so-called developed world major universities, or the one Benedict XVI made, or the first time Frank said it, or the second time. It's true. So I must say that. Let me see here. In 1901, Joachim III, known as the Magnificent, was elected to his second term as ecumenical patriarch. According to the Grand Lodge of Greece, both men were Freemasons. I have heard the Joachim III case. I think, if I remember correctly, he's the one. I don't know if that was the one who got martyred by the Turks, and it turned into kind of chaos. EJ's question. My question is, how are bishops giving sacred sacraments? It's a valid question, but it actually has a simpler answer than is obviously realized. In the first place, when Joachim II was part of the Freemasons, that was a secret sin. It is only known to us now. It caused an uproar in Greece, but God can supply for a person's secret heresy. It's when they openly proclaim heresy to mislead the faithful that God cuts off, the person from grace. So the fact that he was doing so, because otherwise it would fall very close into the category of Donatism. So effectively, as long as he kept his heresy secret, and this is, I think, if I remember, if we're talking about the same patriarch, basically there was a push to have him glorified as a saint in the Patriarchate of Constantinople. I think it was him. But what ended up happening, even I think some true Orthodox were kind of like, maybe, but then his writings came out and it was discovered that he was a Freemason and that he had all of these syncretistic beliefs, and they had to kind of walk it back and be like, we can't recognize this. So The point is that is where you can see the kind of long-term effect of that sort of secret false confession. But if a bishop or priest is a secret heretic, horrible and soul-destroying as it is for them, it does not pass down to the faithful. Nikolai says, howdy, Father and y'all. Howdy, how's it going? So I'm going to go back to putting up the cafe screen, and we're going to, let's see if we got any new things going on. Okay, a new post. Let's see. I'm going to try to click directly in it to see if it works. No, I didn't make World Orthodoxy cry itself. It made itself cry. That was its choice to cry. That's pretty funny. All right, so let's go back to the chat. Let me see here. It's going to be a bit of a scroll. We're going to have a much simpler chat system that's going to be much more effective. Yep, we just did that, Rumpelstiltskin. Very nice, very nice. And so let us continue on. And Ascender says, Pope Francis is a pantheist apostate. He absolutely is. Sharing this tab. Did I not share? Oh, man. Give me a sec. I'm going to share it again. Give me 1 second. As soon as I share this tab instead. All right. Good. I was trying in the meme section. I've done it. Yeah, okay. So let's go back to the meme section so you guys can see the meme because it was pretty funny. And so let's open up there and we just go here and click on latest post. So okay. Thomas Heretic, okay, he wrote a long one. I can already tell. So this says, no, I didn't make World Orthodoxy cry. It made itself cry. That was its choice to cry, which was pretty funny. Okay, let's get back here. And Thomas is posting here, I guess, now, and he wants to argue. Basically, Thomas has been arguing on the cafe on the whole anti-Augustinian, pro-Romanidian thing. It's a niche topic and, frankly, a borderline heretical topic. Orthodox Traditionalist Publication says it wasn't ex cathedra. Yeah, okay. It may as well be, considering it's the same thing they've said for the past 50 years. Speaking of which, God willing, I will be having a debate on the papacy on a channel to be disclosed. However, I'm not sure if it's going to happen, and I will explain why. At first, I mentioned that I wanted to have a debate on the question of whether the papacy was even necessary in the current state of things, and it was on a fairly large channel that I guess was associated with Modern Day Debate, and so, I mean, the guy was kind of for it. He was like, "That's great," and he said, and I guess I'll just spill the beans now. He said, we could have William Albrecht debate you. Now, for those of us who have been following a long time, y'all know I've debated William Albrecht twice. And both of those debates are gone from YouTube because they were on Michael Lofton's channel. Now, I don't think this fellow would do that because I think he's Protestant and he's more interested in just hearing the sides out. But my guess is, and what I told him, was that Albrecht will probably, once he realizes what my name is, not want to do the debate. And that is my guess, and I'm assuming that that's pretty much what's going to happen. So that, if it happens, God willing, I really hope so. I think it will be good to get the truth of Orthodoxy out there to a bigger audience and directly ask more Roman Catholics the question. Because ultimately, the question you have to ask every Roman Catholic is as simple as this. Do you believe that the Pope is what holds the church together, ordained by God himself? Because this is kind of the cultic question of papism. If a person is not convinced of that, they can easily be, given more information and ultimately come to orthodoxy. But the cultic question of the papacy is the difficulty. I have literally read, even on Twitter this weekend, I think it was Fanatic Thomist or something, made a statement to the effect of there is no Christianity without the papacy, because their view is this. They really believe that Christ made Peter le Pope with all of his papal tidings and stuff like that. And if you don't believe that and you say that's not true, from their perspective, if you can prove that's not true and that's not what the church was, then they believe Christ is a liar and so they choose to actually act. What's the word I'm looking for? They'd rather go atheists. Okay, this is a member question. Is Matthew Raphael Johnson an actual true Orthodox priest, or was he at one time? He claimed to have been a part of the American Metropolitan. He was actually a priest of ours. He was removed, and since then he remarried. So he couldn't become a priest again. Sunrise says Thomas or something else. That's true. Now, granted, I don't want to just say, he could never be made a priest again, etc. Those are things that are decided by bishops. Ultimately, we do know that bishops have, in the history of the church, not always with good results, ordained or reordained, twice married, etc. Unseen Warfare says, "What's up?" And so let's see. Is there an icon of Saint Theophil somewhere? Who? I'm not sure who that is. Saba says, I've dealt with his followers before. Yeah, I know. He's super political and it ain't okay. Yes, he is, but that's why he's the problem. And I don't really want to talk in a great length of time about Matthew Raphael Johnson, but he was very big on putting his doctor title before his priest title. And whenever you're dealing with that sort of person, I realize that he's in the really far right section of whatever you want to call the internet. But the whole point is, I don't care if you're a leftist, a rightist, a commie, a Nazi, etc. If your title as doctor is more important than your title as father, there's something wrong. Always. There always is. And we found that out with that, what's his name, Andrei Karayev in Russia, another one of these academics who their clergy calling was worthless by comparison. A year later, Dionysius was called by the Holy Synod, which urged him to lift his ban on Stratus. But while Dionysius was away on a pilgrimage to Jerusalem, the Holy Synod reinstated Stratus himself. So is the Holy Synod wrong and heretical, or supporting heresy? I don't know about that particular case or who Stratus is. What I would say, however, I understand, but what I would say, however, is that unless you're saying that they had conclusive proof at the time that he was a Freemason, which to my knowledge was not the case, then we can't read back into, that's what do you call it? Reading back into the historical text, anachronism. Because ultimately, if they didn't know he was a Mason and the Stratus thing happened for another reason, I assume we're still talking about the Joachim thing. The whole point is, if they didn't know that at the time, but then we know it later, that doesn't mean that he's retroactively graceless and so on and so forth. We have to go with the information that they had at the time in order for them to recognize whether their judgment was correct or not. I hope that helps, EJ. Unfortunately, especially when you're dealing with things like the history of Freemasons, which are historically a secret society, it can sometimes be very difficult to give great answers because a lot of the times some of that stuff was just hidden from view. So unfortunately, that's the thing. But there's a difference between, hidden Freemasonry and open Freemasonry. Ascender asks, is Bartholomew one? Fun fact, Bartholomew has gone on the record denying that he is a Freemason. He may be a slimy ecumenist, and he may have, be like in the business of killing monks on Mount Athos, but he's not a Freemason, or at least he says so. So I hope that helps with that question and answer. I'm going to see if I can get to the questions on Gab. And let's see because I did have one question, and I'm going to try to get to it. So let's try to see here if we can do that. And we're going to go to our notifications and our mentions. I'm going to try to see if I can find it. A lot of people get mad whenever I post about Christ because I have a Gab Pro account, and so that allows a lot more people to see what I'm saying. And because of that, a lot of people get mad when I post Christianity posts And, it's usually at least one or two angry pagans. But this was a question that, let me think. Okay, here we go. My Father's House asks one quick question. When did St. Peter lose the keys, or did the Eastern Orthodox steal them and claim the throne? And I wrote back, great question. So this is for My Father's House on Gab. In the first place, the concept of the keys, and we have to distinguish here because we're talking about the Roman Catholic juridical concept of the keys, and we're also talking about the physical keys of St. Peter. And the reason I bring this up, we know that keys were used because we find them in St. Gregory the Great. We find them in a number of references that there were at one point physical keys of St. Peter that have actually been lost. However, the keys in the scriptures obviously are a reference to binding and loosing as opposed to the Roman Catholic juridical system. So the answer to the question is that when did St. Peter lose it? Well, St. Peter, if we're talking about the physical keys, did not lose the keys, and they were known of at least as late as the 6th and 7th centuries. The Eastern Orthodox did not steal them and claim the throne, but the throne was never just held by virtue of the keys. The office of the first bishop in the church is something that was established through centuries of tradition. You see, Sava says Masons are allowed to lie about being in the lodge. Yes, that's true. Unseen Warfare says, I think Bart is a Freemason because the whole support show by El Pedofra shows that Mason's book. Bart told him to chill out. Right. He might be a Freemason. I'm not saying that he's definitely not a Freemason. I'm just saying that he's gone on record saying he's not a Freemason. But as Sava did point out correctly, he could be lying. And he lies probably quite a bit. So that's fine. We know that it's at least a possibility. I was just saying that officially and on the record, he denies being a Freemason. So let's see what else we got here. What's going on? Again, this is the live Q&A, so anyone can jump in just by clicking the link at the top of the chat. So all you have to do, if you want to join in and ask a question, if you want to join in and, complain, tell me why Orthodoxy is a false religion, so on and so forth. You want to talk about whether Jesus is really the Messiah. You want to convert me to Islam. I mean, all of these are options that you have right now by just clicking on that link in white at the top of the chat. Well, it's only in white on dark mode. I don't know what color it is in light mode on YouTube because I have very lazy eyes and I try to keep everything in dark mode. And also, of course, support the channel. We do need your help. Support us by subscribing or donating at nftu.net, on GiveSendGo, or on Odyssey. I always recommend NFTU because there are options like Cash App and PayPal and crypto. And I could use that. We did manage successfully last week to raise $400 to upgrade the chat on the cafe, and we were successful in paying for that. However, as my Matushka has noted, she kind of laughed, apparently, when I declared last week that I would stay live on the stream to install it personally. And that is where most of you, I assume, learned that I am terrible with technology and screwed everything up. And so, yeah, I won't be doing that. But please, if you want to challenge me on something I'm good at, which is talking about Orthodoxy, feel free to click the link at the top of the chat. All right, let's go back to the comments. We see another one. EJ says, I watched your Jay Dyer video that he ended cringy. You both mentioned CIA infiltration and true Orthodoxy, and I think world Orthodoxy. And so what was the CIA's goal? That is a very good question. For the most part, and I would say that at the time, I would say the FBI, the CIA's goal ultimately is collection of intelligence to determine whether or not people can be useful assets or not. Determinant of loyalty, determinant whether assets are loyal to foreign governments, for example. So there's a number of legitimate reasons why the CIA would be interested in infiltrating churches. This is also true with the FSB. It's true with probably most major intelligence services throughout the world. The intelligence state, or the spook state, basically exists not only to preserve itself, but to preserve common social order. And so it is a given that they watch churches with interest, because churches deal with the issues of men's souls. And, unfortunately, depending on the religion, like Islam, for example, they can spot credible threats to security. These are real things, about that. Let me see here. Ascender asks, is Hakhna's status as a true Orthodox jurisdiction sort of questionable, aside from allegations of abuse and cult traits, and that is why GOC Makarios left communion with them? From what I understand, it was because of a slavish devotion to Imioslavia, which some deny now, some affirm now. So it's not really clear what their leadership's position is. For me, their status as true Orthodox being questionable was as soon as they started throwing saints out of the calendar. So I learned about when they threw St. Leander of Seville out of the calendar because they just blamed him for filioquism randomly. And then I found out they threw St. Augustine out of the calendar. And Gregory of Colorado, to his credit, has also done this, as have Romanidians and certain new calendarists. Now I learned they threw St. Jerome out of the calendar. Well, that just didn't make sense. Now we're throwing 4th century, really early saints out of the calendar, although, he was a contemporary with St. Augustine and they didn't like each other. That was kind of mind-blowing. Let me see here. We got the Sava show, though, so it worked out, LOL. Well, I hope Sava will send me a link so that I can follow. Depends who you ask. They added St. Leander to the calendar in Hakhna, thankfully. I'd have to hear it to believe it. Now they took out St. Jerome, which in my opinion is even worse. And they added St. Augustine to their Synaxarion, mostly due to outside complaints. But then my question is this, Sava, you're on the cafe as well. Why is Thomas pushing this anti-Augustine thing over and over again? Like, I feel like there's stuff that can be, like, why bring it back up? Let me see. I've been rewatching old videos. Give me a thumbs up and commenting to get you views. Let the algorithm do its thing to help your channel grow. Least I can do to help. EJ, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Wild Bill Donovan, the head of the OSS proto-CIA, that's correct, the Office of Security Services, was wheeling and dealing with Pius XII as early as 1944. Absolutely no surprise there whatsoever. And the OSS was also involved with the Greek Archdiocese. EJ says, I'll support financially as the Lord provides. Well, may God bless you on your financial situation. Nathan Powell says, where can I read the lives of the saints? Probably the easiest way. Well, of course, I'm going to recommend the Ephrosynos Cafe, which has a Synaxarion on it, which has been added to for years, which has lots and lots of saints on it. Unfortunately, what it doesn't have is a good way to arrange them so you can just click on them by day, but something to work on. They have an icon of St. Leander in MTM, so the anti-St. Augustine stuff is really popular, really popular with Hakhna. Sadly, it's mostly an HTM thing. One of their churches in South Carolina has an icon of St. Augustine. Well, glory to God. That is a huge step forward. Now, if they could just get past the Yugoslavia thing and just try to sound normal, I think more people would, more people would support them. It really would be nice for them to bring back St. Nectario's Press, because there were a lot of very good volumes that came from that. But it's the problem is that Hakhna often, at least from what I've seen, they really do take a kind of a black and white view of people. So if I say something like, I'm a big fan of St. Nectario's Press, but I really hate the fact that Hakhna pushes this anti-Augustine thing, then that's automatically, I'm a bad guy. I think that, unfortunately, that lack of nuance is something, problematic. Well, yeah, of course, Augustine made more Gregory errors than St. Gregory the theologian. Yeah, but he also wrote a lot. So it's given. And Sunrise says anti-St. Augustine stuff is really popular in World Orthodoxy. Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, it has its own nefarious purpose, which I think many of its defenders are somewhat unaware of. And what I mean by that is that they seem they're against St. Augustine, but it is because of what is often called the estrangement hypothesis, which is kind of like the idea that Roman Orthodoxy separated very early on, so we should kind of not recognize the West as Orthodox after, the 5th century, 6th century. This was kind of started with filioque arguments, and it was a big part of early ecumenical dialogue. However, what you find is historically, church fathers and church leadership, etc., and synods historically did not see history that way. They really saw the break between Roman Orthodoxy as occurring in 1054 and not far after. What you find is if you use what I prefer to call catastrophist theory, which led us to the question and the answer of who invented the Roman Catholic Church, what you discover is that history is much more clear that the West was Orthodox before the Great Schism. St. Photius defended St. Augustine, didn't he? Yes, he did. He did defend him, and he wasn't the only one. St. Mark of Ephesus defended him at Florence. So that, there's a number of that. Excuse me while I take an aspirin. And yes, it's chewable. Yeah, all three of the pillars of Orthodoxy did some. I wasn't going to say 100% on St. Gregory Palamas, but you are right. I suspected that I remembered that, but I wasn't 100%. So I was like, I'll wait till someone else says it. So someone else said it. So yeah, all three of the pillars of Orthodoxy defended St. Augustine. So if you attack St. Augustine, you are implicitly attacking the three pillars of Orthodoxy. All right, so let's review that second video that was on the cafe, and we'll take a look and see if that one's any better. I hope it's not another one of these text across the screen deals. Okay, it's another one of these text across the screen deals. All right, so let's make it fast. Okay, what kind of music is it?
You have a few names, even in Sardis, who have not defiled.
Wait. This is a person. Hold on. Let us listen to the person talking.
Their garments, and they shall walk with me in white, for they are worthy. This is dreadful. However, the personal beliefs and/or the unworthiness of this bishop did not automatically defile or corrupt his church members. This passage makes it very clear that we can have a dead bishop ethically or doctrinally, and we can still walk with Christ if we continue in the faith once entrusted to the saints. The same observation can be made in the church of Thyatira. I know your works, love, service, faith, and your patience, but you allow this.
Does it say who said this originally? Okay, Constantine Zalawas. Okay.
It is not always possible to have absolute health in the areas of ethics, administration, and doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
It would be wonderful for the church to be healthy in all these areas, but the church ministers to weak, imperfect, and sinful people.
Yep.
Imagine a hospital with healthy patients only. What kind of a hospital would it be?
Yeah, we know.
Witnesses of Jehovah approximate.
Okay, so basically it's the argument that secret heresy does not defile the church. We already know this. That is basically the difference between Orthodox and the Donatists. Let me see here. It sounds like something's popping. So let me see here. The sound from the video is, good evening all, good evening Father. The sound from the video is very soft. I'm going to try to make it louder. Let me try again. Hold on. Let me see if I can. Okay.
Terry court-martial, but he gave them time to repent. And this time lasted for centuries, as in the case of the Church of Smyrna, which lost its lampstand about 100 years ago. As a hospital, the Church of Christ hosts healthy, unhealthy, semi-dead, and even dead members. It is not always possible to have absolute health in the areas of ethics, administration, and doctrine. It would be wonderful for the church to be healthy in all these areas, but the church ministers to weak, imperfect, and sinful people. Imagine a hospital with healthy patients only. What kind of a hospital would it be? The false witnesses of Jehovah approximate this paradigm, and in order to maintain and keep healthy members, at least externally, they excommunicate any members who are too weak to conform to their standards. The true Church of Christ, our Orthodox Church, however, provides long-term therapeutic discipline, well aware that some of our passions are very stubborn. until we humble ourselves and invite the grace of God to fight and conquer our enemies. Unfortunately, many of our well-meaning brothers and sisters in Christ who are not well-informed in this area fall prey to the personal opinions of irresponsible bloggers and self-made internet theologians who often speak with the authority of holy synods, bringing down bishop after bishop with their costless and paperless uploads and downloads. A PC, some good writing skills, and people become an authority unto themselves. They judge.
I wonder who he's talking about. I think it's funny. Again, we're dealing with this whole stay away from the internet. No one's talking again about secret sin. We're talking about public confession of heresy. That's not a sin. That's a deviation from orthodoxy. This is really long. Okay.
Patriarchates and local churches, they decide who is with grace or without grace, and they hurt and confuse the simpler souls that Christ died for. They claim that the transgressions, heretical opinions, violations of canons of some weak or deluded bishops or patriarchs.
Yeah, well, you notice how he threw heresy in with, sins and canonical violations. No, heresy is a different category. I can see where he's going to lump them all in together to Madonnatism.
Make the entire church heretical or corrupt. To help us in this area, I will rely heavily on the great wisdom and knowledge of Father Epiphanios Theodoropoulos, of blessed memory, who was known and respected as the foremost Greek church authority on canon law of the 20th century. Initially, the violation of some canons by some clergy, whether bishops or patriarchs, although lamentable, does not make the entire church corrupt. As Orthodox, we must not pray or have liturgical communion with the non-Orthodox, no doubt, and these violations are punishable canonically. These violations, however, do not make someone automatically heretical. We have hundreds of bishops in our Orthodox local churches. The toleration of these practices by the church as a whole does not go against the mindset of the church through the ages. Once again, the church never acted like a court-martial to condemn and spiritually execute its violating members in a few days.
Okay, the problem with this view is he's acting like this is 1920. Like all of a sudden, Patriarch Bartholomew is kind of he's celebrating with the Pope, and oh no, they've discovered it. This is terrible. Like they're acting like this isn't 100 years old. Like he says, the church has hundreds of bishops. Yes, it does. You know what the true Orthodox also have? Hundreds of bishops. So you have a choice. You can go to true Orthodox bishops who don't do horrible things and celebrate with heretics, or you can go with World Orthodoxy and go with the bishops who celebrate with heretics. But your choice is a reflection on you. Because if you can look at both sets of bodies and say, I think I like the one that's celebrating with heretics more, guess what? That means you're sympathizing with those positions.
There was times when even wise and holy people fell in some heresies or delusions. God, however, who searches the hearts, did not find them unworthy of his mercy. Saint Gregory of Nyssa was not immune of dogmatic errors, yet he is honored as a father of fathers. Likewise, Dionysius of Alexandria made quite a few errors in his Christology, the theology of the Son of God, of the person of Christ. He did this without meaning to. His inaccurate expressions gave a lot of leverage to the Arians who were quoting him quite often. St. Athanasius of Alexandria needed to write an entire thesis in order to justify and correct the inaccurate expressions of Holy Dionysius. In the early 60s, Patriarch Athenagoras taught some heretical opinions. To this day, none of the other local churches condemned him, or he did not leave the church to start his own branch. Thus,
that's because they ended up agreeing with him. Like this is not an honest presentation by any means. And I'm going to jump onto comments here because I see that there's quite a few of them. Let me see here. Let me see. Constantine Zaulus is very much a traditionalist wing of World Orthodoxy. Yes, he is. Atomic leads to St. Gregory, cites St. Augustine. I think even against the Filioque, he does. Sunrise says, yeah, that one book, Orthodox Mindset or whatever, said St. Augustine might not be a saint anymore in the future, didn't it? LOL, the book about Phronima. That's a very terrifying concept to think that someone would be so arrogant to write someone won't be a saint in the future. That's not how it works. Saba says, I talked to Zaulus once. Okay. Ascender says, what was your impression, Saba? And he says, I see him as the World Orthodox Vladimir Moss. Oh, that's not fair to Vladimir. That's not fair to Vladimir Moss. LOL, I've read the actual moss of it, but it's strange that he's disappeared from the internet. Aside from the Lulu books you can order, it is strange. I've noticed that. I don't know what it means. I mean, more in the weird takes that he has. Well, the one Moss book I own attacks Metropolitan Anthony Roquefort strongly. Yes, he does. Believe it or not, a lot of people did, including bishops at the time of Metropolitan Anthony, for that book. The channel has anti-humanism stuff, but they have some stuff speaking shady. Constantine Zalas is huge for the Father Peter Hears crowd, says Jonathan. Sometimes speaking against GOC groups, I believe it. He speaks at the same conferences. Yeah, I have a hunch it's very likely Father Hears will eventually join the True Orthodox. I don't. I have exactly the opposite feeling. Ascender writes, it will be harder to see the mainstream Orthodox situation as salvageable. Remember that Father Peter Hears officially celebrates on the new calendar. So one of the most obvious ways in which ecumenist is completely acceptable to Father Peter. Sava says Father Peter is not joining True Orthodox anytime soon. Sava says he was True Orthodox. He knows what he's preaching is wrong. I wasn't aware of that. He's controlled opposition. I can agree with that. Kind of scary to think about. Father Peter himself said he was never TO. That's true. He said he was ROCOR in the 90s. But ROCOR in the 90s, as you know, has that kind of, that half and half a thing. You know what I'm saying. His spiritual father was Elder Ephraim for 25 years. Father Peter, repenting and becoming True Orthodox, is highly unlikely, but miracles can happen. Yes. Maybe his 20 years in Greece broke him. Yes, that's true. He has quite a few videos against True Orthodox, and you think he said it's absurd they won't recognize people like Elder Paisius, so I don't know about Father Peter. Yeah. Orthodox Waza says he has a deep attachment to Elder Ephraim, so it isn't surprising he is in the position he is in. Very true. He was there when they were in communion with the Holy Synod and Resistance. He knows about the arguments for True Orthodoxy. I don't know where Father Peter was at that time. I don't think he was in ROCOR at that time. If I remember correctly, he was State Church of Greece. I recently watched a 1-hour video of Father Peter Hears on Ruslan KD YouTube channel. He seems like the real deal. What are your thoughts on Father Peter? As hard as this is going to be to say, and I realize that a lot of people are going to be mad, especially fans of Father Peter. Frankly, at this point, I mean, controlled opposition is one way of putting it. It's kind of, I would say he's very good at being semi-traditional. And I say being semi-traditional because I don't want to go as far as to say faking traditionalism. But there's a point. There's a point. When you've been familiar with the entire situation of ecumenism in Greece and in other places, and you're coming out with videos just in the last year saying, I spoke to a priest once, and he was like, we believe Roman Catholics and Orthodox are in the same church. And I was like, my brother, what? How could you believe this? Who are you lying to? Who are you lying to, guy? You've known there have been people like that the whole time. Stop pretending. Stop pretending, man. Like, that's what I have to say. And I'm sorry if that's disappointing, but I think it's a very well-crafted persona, sales pitch, whatever you want to call it. And God forgive me, I'm a hypocrite. I'm fat. I have problems with alcohol. I can flatly say, I have problems with tobacco. I'm not going to lie to people. But I believe that when you start pretending like ecumenism hasn't been real for the past 50 years in your churches, and that you suddenly magically met an ecumenist, that's just lying to people. And I used to be very sympathetic. I used to think he was like the real deal. You can't be the real deal when you're pulling stuff like that. You're faking, and you should be called out for it. Let me see here. Peter and his brother are coming out with a documentary, Christianities. Yes, I've heard about it. To try to cement World Orthodoxy's position to someplace important in the future. This is really the point where we have to start, building our own resources, etc. Give me a moment. Atomic Lead says, I hope Dr. Moss is doing well. The Hadra Saga author says, Father Joseph, what can one do if they have lost a password to the Euphrosinos Cafe and no longer have the email address that they signed up with back in 2003? That is a good question. Because I hadn't even thought about that. What they can do, let me check. Hold on. Let's see what I can do in the cafe here. Give me a second. Let's share this tab instead. Actually, I'm not going to share a tab at all now that I think about it, because I'm going to try to see if I can help out with this right now. Viagra Saga author. Is Moss's website back up? Had heard it was done. I haven't seen it. I don't have anything against Elder Paisius, really, but I don't think he's doing any cover for bishops doing anything. Well, he's not doing anything. He's reposed. I guess Put Mountain Breast puts out some solid books, which is they do. It's silly to say World Orthodox is the true side just because they have recent elders with miracles. Yeah, because then that just can be that. The miracles argument is unfortunately one of those low-hanging fruit arguments. Reader Sava, just because Father Peter was in Rokor doesn't mean he was true Orthodox. So that's correct, but I don't believe he was in Rokor back then. I believe he was a priest of the New Calendar Church of Greece. Paisius is a full-blown pseudo-saint. He supported ecumenism. Orthodox traditionalist publications, as Father Peter hears, equals Orthodox Presbyterian. Sandra, I've come to the conclusion that anyone more recent than the Optima elders has to be discerned, as even Father Sheriff from Rhodes said that is the past. More importantly as well, you want to reach out to your own priests, your own bishops in true Orthodox jurisdictions, because we have been glorifying saints. While people are busy chasing Paisios and Ephraim, there's literally been dozens of saints throughout the world, true Orthodox confessing saints that you haven't heard of. And it's important we have to try harder. EJ and Jonathan said respect. Orthodox traditional publications says believes entirely rule of governments by priests and elders rather than bishops, since all the bishops are heretics, don't kiss their hand, but will take their communion all day, every day. Incredible inconsistency. There's so much about Paisios and is likely apocryphal, but I didn't know he supported the silliness of Oriental Orthodox being the same, if that's a legit quotation. It wouldn't surprise me. That was Father Romanidis' position. I've seen quotes of Paisios talking about cryptocurrency and white national. Okay, he was dead for a lot of those. I'm convinced, yeah, there are people who do make up quotes. Give me just a moment here. I do want to help out the Viagra Saga author. Give me just a moment here. Let me see here. Give me just one moment, guys. I'm going to do a quick water break for a second. And so give me just a moment. On the screen. Let's put me back on the screen here. And I'm no longer on water break. And so I'm going to present the screen, and it will be the cafe chat as we return. I have been disconnected. This is why we need a new system. Okay. Yep, hot take. Let me see here. There's been some more. Father Antonio says it would take an incredible amount of humility for him to do so. Hot take, he's fighting against the truth. Rumpelstiltskin says, "Oh snap, okay." So now the Viagra Saga author, I did actually Facebook you. And so let me see here. That's 100. OTP says that's Orthodox Traditionalist Publication says that's 100% what they do. That describes the whole Green Book, edited, translated by Father Peter Heers. I'm not sure which Green Book you're referring to, but if you want to pop on and give us a little more info, we'd gladly have you. And then Father Peters did edit quotes from Father Philotheos Servakis. Yes, he did. Death compromise makes a strange face. To make it seem like Father Philotheos was condemning all the old calendars. Yeah, that's true. So we are now crossing over the first hour. Orthodox Traditionalist Publications is the one written by Hieromonk Isaac. Okay, I have not seen that one. And let me see here. As we continue, Ascender asks, do Matthewites have a light switch idea of grace, or is that just a character of their ecclesiological belief? Basically, State Church of Greece loses sacramental grace right at the calendar change. That's an interesting one to answer, and I'm going to say yes and no. And the reason I'm saying yes and no is because of the fact that the light switch theory of grace has often been kind of exposed as problematic because of many confused circumstances in church history. And most Matthewites, including the most extreme ones like the Kirikites, do recognize that. That said, the light switch theory of grace actually comes from a discussion that was held with one of the hierarchs, and I forget which of them it was. I want to say it was actually Callistos of Corinth, in a discussion, I believe, with Rokor hierarchs, when somebody asked, well, how can you just say grace just departs? And he actually said like this and shut off a light and then turned it back on. So in fact, yes, they created the light switch theory, but no, I think they know it's more complicated than that. So let me see here. Can anyone confirm that the monastery Metropolitan Jonah is in, the head of the monks eat meat? Well, I know that in the Western Rite, you're allowed to eat poultry because of the rule of St. Benedict. I have no idea, though. I don't know what his monastery is like, etc. I don't know if they're eating steak. I don't know if they're eating fish. I don't know if I just have no idea. In the 30s and 40s, that's what Sava says. The Matthewites historically didn't believe that. That's a later development. In the 1930s and 40s, they didn't consider the split from the Florence to be a true schism. They used to communicate each other's people and serve the same altars. So, they venerate many Matthewite elders and saints from that period and vice versa. Most of Vatican Collegical ever vigilant were both Matthewites. I agree 100% with this take. I think when the Matthewite bishop who did the little light switch thing was he was trying to make a point forcefully that we could not continue saying that new calendarists will always have grace, etc. And he did that with a light switch, and that has been misinterpreted and used for much new calendarist tears over how horrible we are, so on and so forth. Imagine that, both Metropolitan Chrysostomos and Bishop Matthew being saints, not either or. That's how I live, man. I venerate them both. Yellowfish trumped the way to the top, states on page 188 that he has a personal Kabbalah teacher by the name of Eitan Yordani. I was looking for this because somebody asked me about this on Gab, and I was like, I'd never heard of this. They showed a quote, but I can't find the text, and I'm not sure if it's Donald Trump Sr. or Donald Trump Jr. I do not have the book Trump the Way to the Top. I don't even know if it was ghostwritten. I don't know. It's possible. And then the question is, what does that mean? Does that mean that he is, because if he's going to church, etc., what is the point of the Kabbalah thing? I don't know. Orthodox Traditionalist Publication says, yeah, they eat meat. He can cook a mean ribeye. Wow. Okay. Bishop Matthew Sava says, Bishop Matthew wanted to reconcile with St. Chrysostomos, wanted on his deathbed, and Miriam stopped St. Chrysostomos from seeing him. It's possible, and I do think that I believe that story is real. Mother Miriam, though, is a tragic story on her own, and I don't want to go with that. Orthodox Traditional Publications, and they do this with the blessing of the Rokor hierarchy, guessing they're fulfilling the prophecies about actual monasticism in the dying in the days of apostasy. and then Ascender was marrying that one nun who was accused of murdering children. No, she was accused of murdering lots of people. And originally, she wasn't accused of anything except importing olive oil illegally. However, once Spiridon Vlachos took charge, and he was very anti-true Orthodox, the courts realized that they could get her with her on a bunch of things. They ended up getting her on charges of negligence on 8 people because of certain spiritual practices during a typhus epidemic, I want to say. It was some epidemic that was killing off the people. They just blamed her for it, even though they were dying of the disease. It's pretty awful. Silas says, yes, Trump has said he's not Christian. If that's true, now, because I've seen the video, someone sent me a video and they were like, there's the proof he's not Christian. And he says, I'm a Christian, but it can be heard like, I am a Christian or I'm not Christian. Like, I don't know how they get the N in there. I really don't. Orthodox ritualist publications, like Metropolitan Nicholas cares what they do. They let him preach heresy without consequence. Why do you think they care about meat? I mean, at least for the image. Yep. Unseen Warfare says it's Madonna's Kabbalah teacher. He gave him advice about not stopping working if he was tired. He's a Mason. Gotta be. Most of the rituals are taken from the Kabbalah. I don't know that Trump is a Mason. That's news to me. It would be, that's bad. John MC says Vlachos. Yes, Spirit on Vlachos. Ascender, Kabbalah, Masonry, Gnosticism. It's all one, man. Yeah, it is, unfortunately. Give me just a moment here while I work on this puppy here. And I'm just I have to do something, and then I will, let me see here if we have what we've got going on. Give me just a moment. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to look for questions. And let me just go here. Okay, and I'm going to, okay, go like that. All right, and then I'm checking. Okay, so this is good. All right, so manage users. Okay. Okay, hold on. I'm still not the best at administrating things, but just give me a few moments while I attempt to fix this. I know how I can do this fast. Give me just a second. Okay, let's get to. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go right here. All right, so that's not the best choice. Let's see here. Okay, let's try here. We're gonna go to the end. Perfect. 1 second. Just trying to administrate a user here. He's kind of an important guy in the history of the cafe. So I'm almost done. Just have to figure out how to do this in small size. Okay. No. Let me try that actually. Maybe that'll work. I'm just, while you guys are doing this, I am trying to find a user and hoping they found it. Okay. And let me go here. I'm going to take this and I'm going to okay, just so you know, hold on. Just so you know, Viagra Saga author, I have updated that. So you should be able to use your email as well. Let me see what else we've got going on here. And so, EJ says, Ascender, I agree. Root source, Lucifer. Yes. Blavatsky wasn't even reluctant to admit as much, and that was the 19th century. No. Father Archbishop Pachomius of the Kyrikite Synod recently reposed, and he reposed out of his synod. Do you know anything about this? I don't. Unfortunately, I don't. Or at least I think it was Archbishop Pachomius. I said it was. I know he was 101 years old. I don't have translations over for my browser, so I don't know exactly what it was. EJ says, what are y'all thoughts on the Orthodox Church in America? I found a parish 5 miles from me. OCA is schismatic. Yeah, no. I thought you were talking to Father Boniface. Trust me, I'm telling you, stay away from the ecumenists. It's not worth it. Sava says the OCA is not a real church. Do they call the Roquorn Peace schismatic back? They did until 2007, and some of them still do. So yes. Vlachos is in prison, not as in church. I have some rough sound reception for some reason. Yes. Sorry about that. Okay. So, again, it is the live Q&A. And so if you can feel free to call using the link at the top of the chat, comment or ask questions in the chat, and we have the cafe up so you can ask questions for free there. I do put up super chats and I do put up member chats. So please, if you'd like to, we can always use your support. Ascender does say it's a pretty liberal jurisdiction. It is. Orthodox Traditionalist Publications in our church outside Russia, as you know, there's this disease, the so-called American autocephaly. It used to be a metropolis as well as a group of paraschismatics. Yes. Yes, Pachomius did repose according to Sava. Okay, so again, it's a live Q&A. People can ask questions. I've answered the ones out of Gab. Let me see if any new ones have popped up. I don't think so. Doesn't look like it. And so I'm going to just quite quickly check here. Let me see here. Okay. Yep. Doesn't look like there's anything new on Gab. Let me quickly check on the Twitter. Nope, I don't see anything there. Let me check here and see if there's anything. Okay, yeah, this is ridiculous. Because I do get occasional comments from Muslim channels and Muslim people, and they always have very low information. Let me see. Father Boniface says the video that I have shared may have Trump talking about his Kabbalah teacher. Yeah, well, that would be bad if that's the case. And I was just trying to find someplace where my kids can socialize as well. But on this point, I agree. Father Boniface has been helpful with information. I hate to say this, but that is a problem that I think a lot of people have in modern society and true Orthodoxy, is that sense of isolation. One thing that I've noticed is a lot of kids use Discord to kind of improve that situation. That was part of the reason why I want to upgrade the cafe, so that more people can have a good and wholesome place, but more importantly, one that has modern communications methods. We just didn't do the upgrade yet. God willing, we will. Ascender says, I think there are tons of lay people in OCA who piously believe. World Orthodox does everything they can to suppress true Orthodoxy even existing. Yes, there are a lot of people like that, and there's a lot of people who truly believe that Metropolitan Jonah isn't saying anything heretical, or that, Bishop Alexander Golitsyn isn't saying anything heretical, but they are, and that's a problem. Sava says, I grew up with practically zero socialization and don't have social anxiety or such. Okay. That's compromise. So Father Boniface, if you're trying to share a link on the YouTube chat, it may not work. Yeah, that's true. If you're not the moderator, or it often will block you. I don't know how to fix that. So you want to make sure your kids socialize with the right people. You lie with dogs, you come up with fleas, sort of deals. Yep. And same. But the thing is, I still do have quite a bit of that anxiety. Well, that's we'll help. We're gonna try to help you get over it. That's I don't know how good we'll be at that, but as long as I don't have kids, so I'm probably the last person who should be talking about that. Well, it depends on how many people there are in your family, so on and so forth. What are your family networks like? So there's very things that let me see. So I was saying OCA check. Thanks. Good to know that I'm not the only one who says that. I can tell you stories. They are all true. Father Boniface says, you have the address, just cut and paste. OCA also venerates papists. Yes, they do. Francis of Assisi. So do the Antiochian Western Rite people. Or write it down and then type it in. Mm-hmm. Senator says, I have anxiety about the world. Talking with Orthodox people about matters of faith, no problem. Well, people in all times and generations are just people. There's believers and non-believers. You just have to treat them as well you can. So once again, and I will once again say this, support the channel. We need your help. Support us by subscribing or donating at nftu.net, on Give, Send, Go, or on Odyssey. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I am curious as to whether that's true that Zav has a channel, because I would like to follow it and see what he has to say, because that would be very interesting. Tikon says, we have lots of kids at St. Peter at the LU. Come visit. Yeah, it's a pretty big parish from what I understand. There's a number of very big parishes. Not everyone has to join a mission. Try to find true Orthodox churches of some size, if you can. I mean, I know that in the Central Florida area, there's a few different priests, so there's got to be more community than just one or two isolated families. You got to build your networks, because they're not going to be. We live in an age where we can do as much as we can with the technology, but in the end, building those human communications networks is something that it's going to be local. It can never be replicated on a website, etc. Let me see. If this is a false church, then what is this? Is OT Orthodox Traditionalist Publication says this is a false church. Then what is the fault of the people who do not understand that this church is fault? It's not their fault, is it? You've probably heard these words, and my answer is, why aren't they to blame? Why aren't they to blame? Do they know what kind of authority they have? God fighting. Authority goes against God. Is it possible to recognize such authority? They recognize it and obey it. St. Philaret. So that's St. Philaret's quote on the matter, and so I'm going to defer to his wisdom on that. Sava says, I don't have a channel, nor do I have any intentions on starting one. Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear this. Sunrise says, I was making a joke about the last stream, Father, where Sava took the questions while you worked on the cafe. I really have no problem with that. With people who want to help out, I really appreciate it, actually, because often there's a lot of things going on. We had the cafe issue to take care of, and you notice we had an uncomfortable pause, a water break, and it keeps it. When you have someone else there, it keeps things moving and moving and moving. And so that's a good thing. The Senator says, if I am being bold, I will submit it to every Christian's personal responsibility to discern the church. The papist blind obedience thing is almost being done better by World Orthodox these days. I agree with that, actually. And I think that ultimately a lot of World Orthodox loyalty at this point is crypto-papism, is really what it is. They've just put the Pope someplace else. I did think about doing gunsmithing videos, but there's a billion people out there doing that. And Senator says, cool, you make guns. Well, Sava can't. We'll just leave it at that. He can't. He has a lot of special skills. So he's our resident vet. No, I'm just kidding. He's not a vet. No, I don't think he's a vet. No. Anyway, all right, okay. Does Father Peter here consider St. Philaret of New York a saint? I know Living Orthodox does. No, he does not. I don't believe he does. I believe he probably may use St. Philaret's writings improperly to sell books, but I don't believe he actually thinks he's a saint. But I'm not an expert on the question of Father Peter Here's loyalties. Orthodox Traditionalist Publication, however, did work with him, so I would take his word as gold on this matter. Let me see what else we've got going on here. I don't see any new questions Orthodox Traditionalist Publication. They stopped talking about St. Philaret when they translated his graceless comments about the Moscow Patriarchate. Surprise! Anyway, it's the same thing with Father Seraphim Rose. Oh, they found he's true Orthodox just take the stuff out in the new edition after he died, so he can't even they can completely misrepresent what happened historically. Sava says, yes, sir. I build ARs, AKs. I do work on bolt action rifles, curizing. Done some custom builds, modification, repair, basic stuff. Really, I've worked in some interesting firearms over the years. Yes, he has. Okay, and let's see what else we've got going here. So, again, support the channel. We need your help. As always, support us by subscribing or donating at nftu.net, on GiveSendGo, or on Odyssey. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We do need your support. This week, where we were waiting on the cafe to kind of get upgraded, I had a lot of regrets about that. I was like sitting here like, well, I'm not going to survive. But I did. Glory to God. As a wild reader Sava enter the channel. Let's see. There you go. I remember this one time I was getting into that Belarusian convent of St. Elizabeth that sells icons. I do not understand the idea of fighting with a convent. Like, I mean, first off, if you're a guy, I just, I'm not into fighting with women in general. I mean, I'll fight with my wife, my matishka, that's fine. But I couldn't see myself fighting with women. I'm just weird that way. I couldn't. I wouldn't want to get into a long, extended conversation. Maybe it's because of the fact that conversations and debates can become often passionate, and that's problematic, especially when dealing with the opposite sex. So I certainly wouldn't debate a bunch of nuns. No way. Let me see here. And the mint convents won't sell to us in Roac. LOL. Wow. Well, that's pretty awful. They say they don't sell to schismatics, but they do sell to the OC. Of course, they're just hypocrites about it. There's no evidence the bishops ever compromised the faith. Yeah, sure. I was all online, by the way. Yeah, okay. Gross. In old days, there were still many old-timers who had the true faith. The reason why parish became the OCA was immaterial to them. Now I'm one of 3 old-timers. Parish has gone full throttle OCA. So I assume, you never go full OCA. And so let's see here. Yeah, such lies. They actually took our money from Vladika for a Klobuk and refused to deliver it. Okay, I put that on the screen. I normally don't put those on the screen, but I put that on the screen because that to me is completely unethical. If you were given money for a service and you use even the arguments for Orthodoxy, any argument for Orthodoxy or Christianity in general to deny someone services, give them their money back. Like, that's the big problem here. It's not that we're not even saying, okay, fine, you have to do business with us, bake the cake, bigot. No, but give the money back. Because then you're just stealing. And stealing is also wrong. Ascender says, my godmother is just such an old timer. She is cradle and Russian. Vader Saga author says, Father bless, that worked as I was able to reset my password. God bless you in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And so let's see here. Let's see if we got other stuff. Looking for more stuff, because if I don't find more stuff, well, wait, I got a private message in the cafe. These are so rare. Okay. Oh, okay. I see what that is. All right, that's cool. Let me see here. And let's see what we've got going on here. Let's get back into the mighty streams. And you see how, like, I'm doing all this stuff in the back end where I can put in banners and I can invite people, so on and so forth. All this stuff is through a platform known as StreamYard, which I pay for. I have to pay. Right now it's $25 a month. It's about to jump to $45 a month, which is a lot of money. So my goal by September is to get this chat platform working because it has the ability to replace StreamYard. Paul Raymond Pinson says, what is the true Orthodox situation like in Georgia today? What's your take on Elder Gabriel? Senator says, Hockness parishes, they're pretty sure GOCK does. So does the GOCA. And of Lona, we actually have 2 bishops in Georgia. And there has been persecution, not a surprise. In Belarus, in Georgia, oh yes. I thought Hockna and Roac was not good. I don't have a problem with Roac at all. Hockna is pretty alone where they are. There's only Gregory of Colorado holds to their actual ecclesiological errors. I don't know about Belarus. I'm not aware that there is much true Orthodoxy in Belarus. If there is, it's going to be under other synods. Sala says, Roac, GOCA, Hockna, and the GOCK are all in Georgia. They are. And the truth of the matter is the only thing that's holding everything from collapsing is probably just the very existence of Patriarch Elia. As soon as he passes, the ecumenists are going to come out full force because they're already covering the synod. They're just out of respect not saying anything. As to the Elder Gabriel, he's an interesting case. He did burn the image of Stalin, but more importantly, he seemed to have a tradition which I've mentioned this before, but there was a catacomb bishop who used a similar methodology of faking drunkenness. Like both of the elder and this bishop would cover themselves in vodka, so they would be assumed to be drunks, and they did this on the regular. So I think that I don't know. I'd have to really look at the life of Elder Gabriel very carefully. I know that Patriarch Elia, when he was Metropolitan Elia, basically just said something. He asked him a question, and I guess the guy, was very polite to him, so he gave him a free house, and he kind of like lived there until the end of his life. I do know that Patriarch Elia, when he was Metropolitan Elia, also met this catacomb bishop who refused to recognize him, at which point he threatened to put him in jail, and eventually that's kind of the direction that they went. So difference of kind of how they handled it, but difference of rank as well. Their president is an atheist who pretends to worship Orthodox. It's weird. Yeah, no, he's that. I definitely think he's working with the NGOs. The Artok has a bishop in Belarus. Okay, the GOCM also has 2 parishes in Georgia. I believe it. There's a lot of activity in Georgia because of what happened in 1997. There is a lot of activity that's gone on there since. Ironically, that growth came from Georgia pulling out of the World Council of Churches because they were afraid it was going to be even worse. Because imagine if all of those left as a unified body, there'd be no comparison. It would be like dealing with Bulgaria today or like Romania. So the World Orthodox try to they want to keep their survival going as well. So. It's not like they're just aiming like, let's destroy the church consciously. They just have twisted visions of what the church is and want to keep that going. You just said, I thought it was mentioned here before, but I guess it was just Hochna. Yeah, Hochna is very unique. And most of Hochna left. They joined the GOCK. So even what they have now is like a shadow of what it used to be. And they have new people. But I guess those people, there's people who, I guess they really think that, Father Pantaleimmon's a saint. Like, that's crazy considering what happened. I can't imagine anyone who knows the Hochna history for the past 15 years could possibly think that. It's mind-blowing. But it's because we've moved from elder occultism to, after his death, to kind of hagiography. Okay, Ascender, I can't put those up on the screen. I hope you respect that. I realize, Elder Pantaleimon had some sort of sins. That's not a monk unless repented of. It's an awful thing. You're absolutely true. You're absolutely right on that. And unfortunately, the way that was handled and what happened when he finally, to some degree, confessed was left so ambiguous. I don't know what to think. And I don't think anyone will know for a couple of generations. It's only very recently that it's been a regular practice to go into the glorification of saints just a few years after the revelation of their incorrect relics. Oftentimes these things took 100 years. And so I think most likely, if anyone's going to discover that Father Pantaleimon might have been a saint if he was not guilty of what they say, it will be well after anyone who knew him is alive. There's a new calendarist, Abbot on Mount Athos, who considers Father Pantaleimon a saint. That's not helping the case. Although, wait, you mean he's a new calendarist sympathizer? And wrote an icon and hagiography of him. Even the people at HTM thought it was kind of weird. I can see why they thought it was kind of weird. Well, I think people wanted a kind of Orthodox guru and let Father Pantaleimon be that. I think he helped encourage that. The actual Athonite in the New World. It's not too differently from Elder from. The problem is that Father Pantaleimon, he kind of did fakery when it came to this. And this is part of the reason why, if I seem a little bit hesitant when it comes to talking about stuff like the Father Peter Hears thing, or even Elder Friend, what's it called? Like, okay, I'm going to try to address two different things here. But as I was saying, some of Father Pantaleimon's behaviors were not honest. I'll put it that way. And what I mean by that is, one example, and this was pointed out to me by Father Anthony Gavalos, God rest his soul, Metropolitan Anthony Gavalos of the Matthewites, when I first talked to him. And I was like, I'd met Father Pantaleimon a few times. I, talked to him. He's like, hello, Joseph. And, he had a thick Greek accent, so on and so forth. Like he had been like fresh off the boat or something. And the truth is, he was raised in Detroit. He was Phi Beta Kappa. He was a perfect English speaker. And it was an affected fake accent that he was putting on to look like he was legitimately Greek enough. That strikes me as dishonest. But this whole, Bedimu, I will help you, anyone can do it. I hate to say this, and I have to thank a certain priest, who's now in the Roquefort MP, for showing me that, even if I don't know if that's what he meant to do, but he definitely taught me a hard lesson about not believing people when they call themselves a holy elder. And I advise that everyone in this chat take very careful words of what Elder Joseph here is saying. Do not trust everyone who calls themselves a holy elder, including me. I do not call myself a holy elder. That was more sarcasm. But the whole point is that if I wanted to fake it out on you, and I wanted to put on some sort of accent, I could. And I could really pop piously and grab my Avercatinos and just read quotes from it really slowly, like I meant it. And I guarantee you, I would fool a few people, and I would ask for their money. The point is, a lot of these guys are scam artists. And I'm not saying that is true about Father Peter Hears. Though sometimes I feel like that. And so, this is, it's hard to say some of this stuff because it's, it's accusatory and it seems cruel. But you know what else is cruel? Lying to people. Lying to people is really cruel, especially when they trust you more than they should in terms of salvation. As a priest, you have a responsibility to keep people from doing that. You have a responsibility to keep people from having some sort of enlarged or exalted opinion of you. When people try that with me, I usually insult them because, frankly, it's too easy. It's too easy a setup. If you know how scamming works and you are in a position of authority with something like an online platform, you have way too many opportunities to pull off fraud. Part of the reason you can only see 4 or 5 books out of my tiny library is because there was a period where a lot of these apologetics gurus were fighting over having bigger and bigger libraries in the background. That's part of the reason why I put up an icon in my background. One, for people who can't read, and two, because of the fact that, frankly, I'm not that smart. I'm I guess, relative to the general population. Okay, let me just get to comments. You get my point, I think. I hope. He claimed Father Pantaleimon appeared to him in a dream and went to HTM. Okay. Sunrise. Interesting. So says, no, the guy on Mount Athos is a new calendar. He is under Bart. There's pictures of him with Bart. The reason I keep fighting this issue is because I'm not sure that anyone on Mount Athos can actually celebrate on the new calendar. I could be wrong, but I thought that was part of the charter of Mount Athos. So I'm not saying that he's not a nasty ecumenist, new calendar sympathizing heretic. I'm simply saying I don't know that he's actually on the new calendar. So he's not a sympathizer. He is one. It's very bizarre. How are they allowing him on the Holy Mountain if he's using the new calendar? Only as Figmeno and the Zealots in Skeets and Hermitages are still holding the fort. The other large monasteries have capitulated. I understand what you're saying. I'm specifically asking about the new calendar claim. I have never heard of a monastery on Mount Athos. I have heard about Hillandar, that there's a possibility that they were using the new calendar. But to my knowledge, all the other monasteries are still using the old calendar. Sunrise says, Father Joseph's going to have a Greek accent next week. Oh, well. If I was going to try to pull that scam, I would have done it years ago. Are there true Orthodox bishops or monks on Mount Athos? Yes. S. Figmeno and around 5 Skeets. Yes. Nothing like the big bookshelf to boost your intelligence stat to people. Hey, if it works. Elders ought not to refer to themselves as elders. I would expect humility would inspire such an omission. Yeah, that was one of the things that kind of wilded me out when I lived by HTM and I lived at HTM. And I remember we visited Holy Nativity Convent. And, obviously I went too far to convent, so I didn't realize you couldn't go into the chapel. And so I got chased out by an old nun. But one of the things that I thought was interesting was that when we sat down for meal times, the nun who was leading the prayers was like, through the prayers of our Holy Fathers and our elder, have mercy upon us. And I was like, and our elder? What do you mean, and our elder? Like, we're just said through the prayers of our Holy Fathers, like the saints, and our elder. And I was like, what the heck is this? So, yeah, I mean, to have an organized elder cult is something. I will say that the way people do talk about Father Peter, sometimes I think that he does have that kind of cult going. And so if I sound a little bit suspicious or critical, that's why. Let me see. Father Simeon says elders not to refer to themselves as elders. I expect that humility would inspire such an omission, but it doesn't because they're scam artists. Some of them are scam artists. God forgive me for the ones who aren't, which is probably not most of them. St. Pantaleimon is on the new calendar, so I'm some seats. Oh, wow, that's terrible. They do let some use the new calendar. That's gross. At Vatopedi, they have a cultist to Bishop Matthew. They call his vestments holy relics. Well, he was a saint. He is a saint. He's glorified as one. Orthodox Traditionalist Publication says Living Orthodoxy, a.k.a. Living Surgeons. That was funny. Doesn't know anything about St. Philaretus. He claims he does recognize him as a saint, but ignores everything he has ever said about the MP. That was pretty funny. And commemorate him after the saints on the Sunday after Pentecost. He's the unofficial leader of Internet Orthodoxy. Yeah, probably. Living Surgeonism. That's quality. That's quality. Father Peter, yeah, probably, but that's what we have to deal with. We have to until we deal with him directly, and until he addresses us directly, we have to deal with his hordes of followers and explain to them what's wrong. And some of us, I'm sure, will believe this stuff because he says it in such a believable manner. He puts out quality books, he puts out quality products. He's putting out the rudder. I don't think he's going to delete anything. Let me see here. At St. Pantaleimon, they have the Sigillion of 1583 in a bronze tablet in front of the entrance gate. Very interesting. Comrade Lightswitch says, he was your buddy. I was listening to your podcast together like a year ago. Yeah, they were. He was part of Father Peter's organization. There's no doubt about that. Okay. But, were they buddies or working together? To a monastery that's on the new calendar. LOL. Yeah, that's pretty sad. Well, at least they have the anathema warning you about them right outside the door. It's like a warning label. Orthodox Traditionalist Publication says, Comrade Lightswitch, how things change when you decided you don't want to be in communion with the Soviet Moscow Patriarchate and the WCC. Very true. Atomic lead St. Pantaleimon win. Oh, wait, I kept reading. All right, and I guess it's as good a time as any to point out that today is our live Q&A session. Feel free to call in using the link at the top of the chat, comment or ask questions in the chat, add comments at euphrosynoscafe.com. Oh, Rumpelstiltskin wrote, almost did a Timothy Ware accent, LOL. Isn't that just a British accent? A super chat. We do appreciate those. Or become a member. Let's see here. I feel like I just swallowed some maple syrup. What the heck? Interesting. Let me see. Yeah, I thought it was odd that Living Orthodoxy showing the St. Philaret book, UMP put that out. But you can read that book, and St. Philaret talks about Canon 15. So curious what Living Orthodoxy thinks. That's very true. Is the St. Philaret book going to need a revision? I think if I remember correctly, Orthodox Traditionalist Publications is coming out with the complete life and works of St. Philaret. So Callistus Ware had a weird accent. I haven't listened to him enough to know or what they think of St. Philaret accepting a gorge priest in Tarokor via Canon 15. Exactly. Makes you think. I thought his accent was just British. Yeah, it says, but apparently Sava says it was like a mix of Italian or bastardized Greek and a posh British accents. Okay, Orthodox Traditionalist Publications. Okay, I'll come on for a minute. Excellent. Comrade Light Switch says, GOCK is probably the best you could have went with, but the rabbit hole doesn't stop there. You'll soon find out they're Cyprianites, then you'll join someone else. I don't know that that's true. In the first place, there's a lot of GOCK members and parishes and stuff that are definitely not Cyprianite. So that's a really weird take. I don't think any true Orthodox hold that they really feel this way. So yeah, it's an over push. Comrade Light Switch, who are you with? Let's find out. But if you tell us who you're with, then we can answer that question. So I said, yeah, I'm excited for the St. Philaret collection of what works coming out. Very good. Timothy Ware had classic high church Sunday afternoon plummy after 3 glasses of sherry accent. Okay. Ascender says that's debatable. I'm not sure if he's talking about the GOCK thing. I would love Comrade Light Switch to just say who he's with. The complete censored works of Metropolitan Philaret. Okay. They already censored Father Sarah from Rose, so who would be surprised at all. Posters where had severe George Lucas syndrome. Comrade Light Switch. Switch to the most recent confession of faith for the GOC is in contradiction to Metropolitan Cyprian's ecclesiastical opinions. Yes, it is. Went back and edited all of his own works. In his early works, he said Orthodoxy was the only church, and then he changed it over the years. Wow. Yeah, that's true. So that's awful. But anyway, we go on. We are now in the 41st minute of the second hour. And again, I would appreciate, Cyprianism actually had problems, and everyone in GOCK admits, or almost everyone, maybe not Bishop Maxentius. And outside of Bishop Maxentius, I think there isn't really much to go with outside of that anyway. So we have Subdeacon Icarios. How's it going? Orthodox.
Hey, Father Swayden. How's it going?
Why does everyone treat the last name with I'm not Father Joseph.
Father Joseph. I don't know bad habits.
Anyway, there you are. You're on the screen. So, okay, tell us. Obviously, Comrade Light Switch says, Father Joseph, you say that not every GOC parish is Cyprianite. That's true, but I'm under EP. So you're under the ecumenical patriarch, and you're lecturing on us about what's going to happen throughout our journey to true Orthodoxy. Here, let me make a suggestion, Comrade Light Switch. You've been taught, perhaps, Subdeacon, there's something like kind of volume-wise going on there. I don't know what it is. There's a couple. It sounds like you're in a fishbowl. Let's see here. Oh, that's better. Okay, so you're under the EP, Comrade Light Switch. So I want to point this out to you. Many people have told you from the outside, I'm sure, from your side of the pond, that true Orthodox go from place to place to place to place, and we never find our spiritual home, so on and so forth. I've been with my synod going on 20 years. I think a lot of people have hold on. Yep. No, it's definitely you. I'm not sure what it is. I had to mute you there because it's you'll hear it. It kind of sounds like you're working on the plumbing. But let me see if I can. Okay. Yeah, do you have this live on right now? Are you in StreamYard with YouTube also, maybe? Huh. All right. So let's see. Let's get to more comments. So yeah, I would suggest, Comrade Light Switch, that maybe life doesn't work the way your priest told you it does, or your bishop. Yeah, didn't Orthodox Church by Ware get edited a ton as it went on? Yeah, like 5 times. Oh boy. I have a first edition of the Orthodox Church and a later edition. They're 2 completely different books. Very true. Seems that every time a newer version of a World Orthodox book comes out, it's worse. That's true. Orthodox Way is pretty popular in World Orthodoxy. Yeah, it was one of the first things I read. Yes, it is. Callistus Ware really started losing it near the end. Yeah, with the transgender thing, I would say, definitely. Me too. I was worried when he cited William Blake, the arch heretic. Is there something moving on someone's desk? An electric fan. Do you have a fan on Subdeacon Ictarius?
Yeah, it's probably my laptop with the fans going on it for some reason.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know why it does that. Let me see if I can.
Okay. Claiming
it's
yeah.
I need a new laptop.
Sorry. Sava says claiming homosexuality shouldn't be considered a major sin in modern times, and that women should become clergy. Yeah, unfortunately, Callistus Ware. Hey, whatever you did, it's quiet now. Callistus Ware at the end of his life was, tragic. It was a tragic story. But yeah, people, I guess, want to understand, Subdeacon, your relation to Father Peter Hears beforehand. So I guess a little, if you want to do a little background explanation, you can.
Oh yeah, I used to work there for 3 years. Did a few books. Yeah, I was very much in the know about what's going on there. I was very much in the know with Orthodox ethos and very much in the know about the whole Metropolitan Jonah thing. So that's why when I comment on something, it's because I actually
experienced it.
Yeah, it's a first-hand experience. But as far as that St. Philaret book somebody was talking about,
yeah,
it's
ready. Oh wow! So when is it going to be ready for? Like, when is it going on sale?
So my friend's doing the index right now, and after she was done, it was going to be within a few weeks. But I realized I went to go look for something, and I realized that I didn't have that translated.
Oh
so
wow!
So I had to send off 2 more things to be translated, and but they're short. It's like a minute, 1 minute homily and another 4-minute homily. So I'm going to add those in. And then I also found the actual official immigration file for St. Philaret.
Oh, wow.
So I'm waiting for that to get sent to me, and that's going to go in there too. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, but what he has to say in this about the MP, OCA, it's not good. He calls the OCA a disease.
Yeah, he what was the acephalites, the false acephalites was a common term he used.
Yeah, he called them the Soviet false autocephalites, the American false autocephalites, the Parisian schismatics, a disease.
They called him, to be fair, they called the Rocor disease first.
Yeah, and then he calls the MP graceless a number of times. So yeah, when I hear I think St. Philaret's a saint, I was like, yeah, okay, well, we'll see how. That's why, if you notice, Orthodox ethos doesn't really refer to St. Philaret anymore, because I had translated that homily where he says they're graceless, and then that's it right there. So
wow. Okay, so I'm gonna get to some more comments. Rumpelstiltskin says, "Subdeacon, slow down with the books. I have no money." Let me see here. Subdeacon's laptop is working hard with all those books in the works, says Jonathan Britt. Saba the Saint says, I know someone who's claimed to have known him for years. If his testimony is true, it's very tragic. Basically, he was lied to by the EP. Vedra Saga author says, absolutely, I came to the church from the first edition. All the newer versions are trash. And if you can't beat them, join them. Sunrise says, yeah, I've been reading the Uncut Mountain Press St. Philaret book and have been enjoying a lot. I will need to get this one. Comrade Lightswitch said, I also think it'd be easier to understand this whole World Orthodoxy versus True Orthodoxy ordeal if either side could be consistent. World Orthodox love Vladika Philaret, True Orthodox love St. Nikolai Velimirovich, both deny obvious sanctity. Yeah, but St. Nikolai actually tried to help the True Orthodox of Greece. It's not the same thing. He died when there was a lot of confusion during his repose in Orthodoxy in the world. The fact that 55, 65 years later, you're trying to claim him as the patron of the OCA is because that's not telling the truth. So that's the big problem. Cybercrapper does, what a name. As when can we expect the History of Resistance book to come out?
Oh, yeah, that one's actually up with the there's a lady that does some of the editing for CTOS.
Okay.
So the bishops wanted her to edit that one, so that's getting edited. Like my syntax and is not how they wanted it, so
okay.
So that's hopefully she'll be done. Hopefully in a few months. I don't know. That one's kind of. But I got St. Joseph's done. St. Philaret's done almost. St. Joseph's entirely done. We just need to do the index on that, and that one's ready to go. So St. Joseph of Petrograd is. This is why they didn't canonize St. Joseph of Petrograd, because he called Sergius a pile of manure.
Well, I mean, yeah, he kind of. Yeah, I think that the reason why they don't even want to admit that the Catacomb Church also existed as an organized body.
Yeah.
So let's see what else we got here. Okay, so Sava says I've seen the original copy of St. Philaret's letter to Abbess Magdalena. It's at the Shishkav Grabe house. John MC asks, is it possible to reserve a copy by making a pre-order? And so I think that's for you.
No, we don't do that. It's just easier for me to produce the books and put them online.
Okay. St. Nikolai repudiated ecumenism at the end. He repented genuinely. Very true. I'm grateful to have his prologue in my daily reading plan. It's a gem. That's true. Saba says, to be fair, Father Joseph, the guy who invented modern toilets, was named John Crapper. In actual fact, the AI has fact-checked you, and it says it is Thomas Crapper, but that the term crapper had existed since the 16th century, so it's not accurate. So you have been debunked. Orthodox Wazna says, LOL. Crapper isn't exactly a bad word. That's why I told Comrade Crapper. Okay, guys, really, you guys are this is getting too far. That's not a joke. I own an original John Crapper toilet design from 1910. Then why hasn't Brave AI heard of him, Sav? Are you sure it's not Thomas Crapper? Because he's from the 1800s, so it could be. Pulled it out of someone's house, actually. You'll see some weird stuff as a plumber. So Sunrise asks, does Subdeacon have any plans for a St. John Maximovich book?
I think those are pretty much all taken care of, right?
That's true. There's a lot of very big ones on St. John. Catacomb Christians move along.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
See there.
Yeah, there's.
Okay, now here's Father Joseph.
I don't think I can do any more books.
You never know.
Entirely.
I think there's more. There's more coming. You take a break. You just need a break. Comrade Light Switch asks, Father Joseph, would the whole confusion question work for anyone? You didn't need to prop up your position. Valerio Gafenchu is a good example, or Saint Matrona of Moscow. From what I understand, the whole Saint Matrona thing is a bit more complicated than you realize. So we talk about that on the cafe. I don't know who your first person is, but the point is that when there is a state of confusion in the church and we're dealing with ecumenical heresy, etc., it's to be expected you'll find good people on the wrong side who didn't know they were on the wrong side. Sava correctly answers, he just flat out answers your point. Saint Matrona didn't even wear a headscarf. I don't know. Yeah. If Saint Matrona was even real, because it sounds like she's like a compilation of two different people they're finding out. Is Subdeacon planning on doing any more interviews with true Orthodox people who knew Father Seraphim Rose? That comes from Jonathan Brett.
Yes, we are. I actually have spoken to a priest in my synod that lived with Father Seraphim Rose. Didn't just visit and and write letters over the course of a 10-year span once every blue moon. So he lived with Father Seraphim Rose. He was intimately familiar. He showed me photos that don't exist in the public yet because they're all his photos. And he's told me some interesting stories, Father, about Father Seraphim Rose. And then he was with Metropolitan Vitale, so we're going to go from Father Seraphim Rose into the Metropolitan Vitale thing.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Send me a link to that. Sava does say that there's a lot of similarities between that Saint Matrona and this Matrona of Moscow. That's true. That's where you go to the cafe. We have talked about it. Just look up Matrona of Moscow or any topic, because the cafe has 20 years of true Orthodox information, and soon it will be a streaming platform.
Did you ever see that? There's a documentary that the MP put out about, I don't know if it was MP or it was like a news agency in Russia about Matrona of Moscow.
I haven't seen that one. No, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's like an 8-series thing, but they like go through these like records and they say that she was real. So, and they go to these archives and pull out all these like documents and stuff. But,
well, one thing they don't have documentation for, though, is a supposed visit to Stalin and stuff like that. Like that's like all the stuff that I guess to say the MP puts about her life. Unfortunately, it never happened. And so Comrade Lightswitch says, so if holy people can exist on both sides of this problem due to honest confusion, why deny saints of world orthodoxy? The reason why is because of the fact that the declaration of a saint is through the legitimacy of the authority of the body that issues the glorification. In other words, I do not necessarily know if Elder Paisios, for example, is a saint or not. What I do know is that the Ecumenical Patriarchate is not a valid glorifying body. So therefore, I don't recognize it, not on the basis of anything Elder Paisios did or not, but simply because I don't trust any of the glorifications coming out of a heretical patriarchate.
I mean, we can look at just their latest example, that Gabrielle.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
There's that instance, and then there's that other one. He's another Greek, one of their elders, but he's he's quoted as saying, "We will obey the innovators for now."
Yeah, I've seen that quote.
Rovasios.
Yeah,
something long Greek name. But
yeah, unfortunately,
do saints say that? Did Saint Paul or Saint Peter or Saint James ever say, "Obey the innovators for now"? No, they said, "Flee."
Yeah, obey God rather than men. So this is kind of the thing that, unfortunately, Comrade Lightswitch, you're going to find as a problem, is that in many cases, say, for example, like in the case of Elder Paisios, where he thought that Demetrius was, Patrick Demetrius was like a light from heaven or something, we would consider statements like that evil. So the point is that not everything that the elders, etc., that you venerate, not only are they from illegitimate authorities being glorified, but sometimes they said heretical things themselves. Let me go back here to see there's one Russian commercial where they're selling medals of Matrona. They sell everything. You ought to deny all, or at least none of them within reason, at least. Well, I say it's a case by case thing. Some of the same points out, why would you deny Francis of Assisi? Very true. A little leaven's a whole lump as far as the saints go. Very true. Papists claim they have holy people. Yep. So do Monophysites, so do Muslims. TTC writes those official Soviet documents. Comrade Lightswitch, that's a good point about authority, Father, but I do think it goes deeper. Many true Orthodox will go out of their way to attack our saints and elders. Well, if your saints and elders are telling you to follow, heretical people, then yeah, that's why. Because we don't want your soul being lost under the illusion of an elder fraud. That's why.
Oh, speaking of that, someone had me laughing the other day. It was on I think it was Yadish.
Okay.
On my Facebook, he said, if you don't venerate my elder hereticos, you're schismatic. And I was like,
elder hereticos, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, you're on the hereticos, he said. That's what he said.
Yeah, Paisios and others went out of their way to attack us, says Sava. Very true. Ascender said, didn't Elder Paisios even fast even to redeem the devil, and it blew up in his face? Wouldn't surprise me. Okay, you're on the screen. I'm going to put it up because you're here. For the time being, we will obey these innovators, remaining on guard for subsequent changes. Gervasius Pareskevopoulos. But Father Paisios went out of his way to slander Elder Sabas, a true Orthodox monk on Mount Athos. Very true. And he attacked Elder Orsinios, also a true Orthodox. elder. Sava says it's pronounced Yatish, subdeacon. It is, but I wasn't going to say anything. Let me see here. Viedra Saga author says, was there a loss of some of the posts at the Frostinos Cafe in the last decade? One of my last posts in 2012 said it was my 5,555th post in the cafe, but now I only have 5,118. I can't answer before January of 2024.
Looks like you have more writing to do.
Yeah. I unfortunately, I only took charge of administration at that point. I do realize that in the interim period, like for about, I think something like 10 years, there were a lot of different moderators and a lot of different hands in the soup. We found like private forums, secret forums. I made everything public. So I have no idea, unfortunately. I'm just dealing with what we have now, and I'm trying to build it up to where it's, nice and strong again. Sunrise says, St. John the Theologian fled when he ran into a heretic. Let us fly. Even the bathhouse fall down because Corinthus, the enemy of the truth, is within. Yes. And Saba says, Indian names. Wow. Okay. Well, this is a lot. Let me see here. I see that, that would be awesome to hear more about Father Seraphim. Definitely people are going to be looking forward to the stream, so you got to let me know. Refined Canine says, why do so many orthos think the fact that they don't think their bishops are infallible like the Pope means almost all of them can be heretics and they can still run the church? That's a good question, and I would say that it's that crypto-papism, that they kind of believe that the institution of the patriarchates is by nature infallible, but that there's no concept of indefectibility like in the papacy. So they can believe that all of them can fail, and yet somehow the institutions stay the same, which is their way of saying they're not going to leave even when they're supposed to.
Well, then I switched to Orthodox Presbyterianism. So when it's just
my priest is exactly. My priest.
I have a good local priest, and that's all I need.
That's all that matters.
Even though my antimony is signed by the heretic bishop.
Yeah, exactly. Comrade Lightswitch reads St. Theophan the Recluse on Salvation of the Heterodox and St. Philaret as well. Sava, very true, very good. Comrade Lightswitch probably goes just as far as true Orthodox. They condemn each other all the time, as you know. I really don't think that you should be throwing rocks in a glass house right now, Comrade Lightswitch, considering that if you're with the EP, most of World Orthodoxy doesn't even like you right now.
I find this hilarious lately. Is all the World Orthodox, oh, you guys are breaking this and that. It's like, I think at this period in the last, you want to say 10, 15 years, it's been the most stable, most steady, most peaceful. Yeah. Whereas you guys are Antioch's breaking.
Yeah, you guys are in the past 4 years, World Orthodoxy is imploding on itself. And their argument that we're all so united is garbage, and everyone knows it. And that's why they're afraid that we talk now. Because there's so many of us.
Jerusalem's on communion with somebody, and then MP and the EP, and then Alexandria and Antioch are in communion with Monophysites. It's like, okay, so much unity. Let's get rid of it.
The truest of all unity. And let me see here. Azender says they don't condemn each other as much as you think. There's a lot of unofficial intercommunion. And is that really any worse than the current Moscow-Constantinople dichotomy? You mean the Moscow-Constantinople, Alexandria, Antioch, all over the place dichotomy? But yeah, definitely. I know several people that agrees with you guys on everything, but say you can't leave. I'm not Orthodox, but I find the old calendar position more consistent. Well, good. And when you become Orthodox, join us. Sunrise says, even if the whole world shall enter into communion with the heretical Patriarch of Constantinople, I alone will not. That's St. Maximus the Confessor. That's the kind of Orthodox confession that's preserved the church for 2,000 years. Vedra Saga author says, thumbs up. And that's Father Seraphim Rose talking about St. Maximus the Confessor. I don't know if I should announce it or I should mention it as to why this is actually an important point that I've had Vedra Saga author he's kind of gone back and forth. He was just wanted to get into his account, and I don't know if I should mention who he is. I kind of want to, just to kind of mention how how people kind of just pop in and out from the past and future, etc. But I don't know. I won't say anything more than you allow. So I'll just leave it at that. And Sunrise says that's Father Seraphim Rose talking about St. Maximus the Confessor. Then, as when I was running Old Counterism by my parish priest in World Orthodoxy, he tried to dissuade me by the fact that my actual World Orthodox parish in my area was a failure, that I would have lost my faith. Comrade Lynchwood says, Father Joseph, I think one problem here is many true Orthodox assume that disproving World Orthodox proves true Orthodox. See the problem here? That's actually the argument I've been hearing from Roman Catholics lately, like Christian Wagner, who has been actually saying, like, just because you prove the papacy wrong doesn't mean you prove Orthodoxy right. Like, the point is, when you're claiming to be the Orthodox Church, there are a series of positive affirmations you can make about what we believe, where they come from, what the prayers are like, where the apostolic succession comes from, so on and so forth. These are standard throughout all of history in Orthodoxy. If you change them, then at that point you lose your credibility to hold on to that. So disproving World Orthodoxy by itself would not prove Mormonism, because obviously Mormonism is false. However, if we are claiming to be Orthodox, have the background and information to prove it, and then disprove World Orthodoxy, then yes, it is incumbent on you at the very least to leave your World Orthodox bishops and find some true Orthodox bishops, but you can't just say, I'm just going to stay right here. Ascender says, my Unitarian Universalist infallible papacy. It's effectively what it is, really.
It was that Sunrise comment, St. Maximus Confessor. Go actually read the trial. Like, it's online. Yeah, it's long. It's a long trial, but if you actually go read through his trial, because we have that still, he didn't stay in communion with him.
Exactly. Vedra Saga author says it's okay. All right. Vedra Saga author is Nick. If you follow, he's actually a science fiction writer of various books known as the Vedra Saga. His full name is Nick Stanishek. You can find that on his website. Nick Stanishek is one of the founders of the Euphrosynos Cafe from 20 years ago. So, in fact, he's in the chat, but he was literally one of the guys that started the Euphrosynos Cafe long, long ago. So I think that's pretty cool. And I feel bad that I have to be the one to report that things went wrong with it. But now I'm running it somewhat, and it's going as badly as it can. But anyway, Ascender says, I think a lot of staying in the modernist side is that people are afraid of, if not their lives, at least their reputation. I'm sure that's true with some priests. I am sure that absolutely sure that's true with some priests. But lay people, like, seriously, like, if you're like, just like like an altar server or a reader, or you're not anything, you're just a family who goes to church. Are you really afraid of losing, like, your livelihood, or are you just afraid of losing your circle of gossip friends at coffee house? Like, you gotta ask that question. What are you really losing? Okay. Sava says, Father Joseph, I will be leaving in approximately 1 week to come to Pennsylvania. We are looking forward to seeing you, Sava. Glory to God. And with that, I think I am going to I'll call you before I try to visit. Okay, very good. I think I am going to, we're at the 8th minute of the of the third hour, excuse me. And okay, this chat has disconnected because this is the old chat that we respect somewhat, but that's not what we want. So anyway, I'm gonna let everyone go. First off, just to get where I want to thank everyone who had questions. I definitely want to thank Subdeacon and Karios for hopping on and answering questions and saying hello. Thank our listeners, to those who ask questions and comments, to those who support our mission. Hold on. Okay, just for a second. Support the channel. We at NFTU need your help. Support us by subscribing or donating at nftu.net, on GiveSendGo, or on Odyssey. We remember all of you in our prayers, and thank you for all the support for NFTU. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a good night, everyone. Through the prayers of Holy Fathers, through Jesus Christ, our God, have mercy on us and save us.